What's up, guys? This is Paul. Today I've got a 2018 Honda Civic Hatchback Sport Touring Edition. And what I'm going to be doing today is laying a graphic onto basically what we call this, what's been called the spear pieces of the hood. Before you get started on all this, you need to wash the vehicle. And then in the areas that you're going to lay any kind of graphic, you want to make sure that you go over it with a clay bar first, and then you follow it up with isopropyl alcohol, 70% or greater. And then right before you put any kind of graphic on it, excuse me, you want to take a microfiber cloth and make sure you got all the lint off of it, and it's good to go. You also need to make sure you have your pattern laid out, and what I've done here is I've used knifeless tape by 3M. It's a great product. They make design line and they make finish line. I'm using I believe the finish line product here. We don't have any great real steep bends or curves. I do have one or two, actually one spot down here that's got a point, and you'll see that, I hope, with this video. Hopefully this thing doesn't fall. You'll see that as we get down there. So once you've got this laid out properly and you're happy with everything, what you're going to want to do with the knifeless tape, I post-heat this knifeless tape to make sure it's down real good, especially where they cross at the point here. That way it's all set real good and there's no worry about it pulling up. So what I've got is a piece of Avery Dennison SW 900. It is a way to know it's Avery. It'll be blank on the back here, and it has a smell. It is unique. Something that you don't smell, I think, with other films. It's just a real chemical smell. So once you cut your piece, this is about 44 inches long and about 13.5 inches wide. So what I like to do to start, just kind of lay it out and get an idea of where you need to sit the piece. You want to make sure you cover all the areas. We are going to stretch it just a little bit, which is fine. But on this one here, I'm going to, it looks like, go at a little bit of an angle. So what I'll do is I'll start with the corner on the windshield here. I'll move this down just a little bit. And you're going to want to take part of it here and tack it down to the window. And sometimes it can be hard to get this film started. It's 90 degrees where I'm at today, and the humidity is running about 75%, so this is going to lay really easy. You don't have to worry though. We're going to lay it real light at first. That way we can manipulate it. You don't want to tack it down or anything like that real hard, except for right here on the windshield, right at first. That way you have a point of where you can pull if you need to. You can pull some of the film. So I've got that started, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull it down to where I can pull it straight back. So on this corner over here, if I can get that started, get it bent under, there we go. I'm going to lay it down and tack it on just a little bit. And then I'm going to come across in front of it. So we're going to kind of lay it like this. I want to make sure I overlap everything real well overall, so we don't have any issues. So once you get it started, at least for me, I'm going to take it and move it just a little bit. And then I'm going to keep a little bit of tension on this, just so it will kind of lay along the path that I want it to lay. But notice I'm not pulling real hard on it, just so it'll lay pretty flat here, like that. Okay, so now that that's down, you notice we got some wrinkles and stuff. That's not a problem. So what I do is I'm going to start from the hood side and undo it, pop it off just a little bit here with both corners. And you want to do popping motions so that you don't risk pulling up your knifeless tape, and you want to make sure you cover your knifeless tape all the way across, because if you don't, you'll end up with issues. And over here I'm just a little bit close, so I'm going to pull this up a pretty good amount here, and I'm going to try to attempt to relay this just a little bit, which isn't a problem. I'll just come down to the bottom here and see how easy and pliable that is. So now that I'm covering my area pretty good here, I'm just going to lay it back down real gentle here and let that hang for a minute so that I can come under here and pull it just a little bit like that. Again, real easy at first. You don't want to be real hard or tough on this to this point. You want to keep it light and airy, like a conversation almost. Keep it simple. Don't get too ahead of yourself. And just kind of lay it with the grain the way you think you're going to want it to go. Right here. Just going to relay that a little bit. Sometimes it'll take a few minutes to manipulate it the way you want. But once you get it set, you'll know. You'll know you're ready. Because what I want to do here is I want to make sure here at the top I pretty much don't have to do hardly anything. You want to set this film to where it's almost laid itself here, like glassing it in like they do with the roofs and stuff like that. I did a roof on my Civic touring hatchback, and it turned out awesome. And it actually was really easy to do, especially with two people. It made it super simple. So now we've got that like that. We can tack it down pretty good here. It's ready to roll. Overall here, we don't have a ton of wrinkles. Since I laid this real light, see, I can still pick this up. And I can re-manipulate this if I need to. Again, make sure you're covering all of your knifeless tape. You don't want a bunch of issues here, and you want to make sure you go well past your point of your greatest point here, because if you lose it, then you're going to be screwed when it comes time to tack this all down. So on this side, I'm going to make sure here, I want to just smooth this out a little bit, even past the knifeless tape. You still want to smooth this out some, because you're going to have to pull that tape through, and you want a good clean edge here with the knifeless tape, and you want it to be tacked down real good so that you can make the cuts you need without the tape pulling up. So I use a wet squeegee. It's just a typical squeegee, if you will, that they use on these. It is felt on one side and then hard on the other. So I just end up tossing down water from that squeegee. Sorry, my bowl's on the other side here. Make sure your squeegee doesn't have any hard spots in it, like any dust or anything that's in it, because as soon as you start laying this down, it's going to start scratching. So you could go about this two methods. I would not recommend going down. Since we're in a small area, we're going to go back and forth, and we're going to overlap 50%. You don't want to go flat, but you don't want to go straight up and down. You want to take it about a 70-degree angle or 60-degree angle. I pull back the film first here to do the ends. I want to make sure I get that in first, all the way to where the fender quarter panel meets. So I will do that one towards the vehicle, and then I'll relax that and lay that back down. But then at this point, starting in the middle, I go halfway towards that side, and don't go fast. There are air channels in this, and air will work its own way out, but you want to make sure to watch for any kinks in the film. If you get one, don't panic. Just lift the film back up, pop it if you can. If you can't, just use a steady pressure to open it, and then relay it. You'll be able to tell, you'll be able to feel the air going out of the channels. I can feel that in these. I'm not going real fast. I'm taking it pretty easy here because I don't want to take a chance of, I like to get it done in one stroke, but see, I just got a spot right here. So thankfully, since we still have it laid real light, I'm just going to pull it up until I get past that bubble, and then you're going to just lay it back down. And then lay the film down, back down. Just watch for those. In general, you can get them out because of the air channels, but sometimes it's such a tight little area, you'll need to pick the film up like I did there. You'll know, it'll let you know for sure on that. So like right here, I did it again. And this is down here towards this small area that's got a corner, or where my little corner is going to be. So I got that, and now you want to lay that back down as best you can. And I think it's going to happen again to me here. So I'm going to actually get ahead of it here. Try to keep that open as best you can. So I'm going to just lift this film from underneath, because at this point it's set pretty good. And then I'm just going to kind of hold it, and I'm going to work it, especially on this side over here. This side seems to be the issue side. And I'm going to work it all the way down into that area. Make sure I've got it in there good. And then once I do, I'm going to lay this squeegee down. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to lay this flat back to where I was. Now, so now that we've got the film down, again, see, it's still pliable. I want to keep this down over this knifeless tape pretty good, because we're going to have to come back and make these cuts. So once you've done that, go ahead and go past. I like to go about 2 to 3 inches past the knifeless cut tape. Don't worry about this tape really on this side, because this is going to be your trash anyway. I hate having this much trash, but it's necessary. If you have an air bubble on this side of it too close to the knifeless tape, go ahead and lift the film and then reposition it and drop it back down. You don't want that too close because you don't want that to come up. So I'm lifting it and then relaying it to make sure that I don't have any air bubbles real close to where my line is going to be cut. And again, you don't have to be super critical of this area here. Just enough to where you can make your cuts. Like here, it's bunched up right against the tape. So I'm going to go in and squeegee, pull it up, and then squeegee well past that tape there, so that I have a nice clean area all the way around, and squeegee all the way down to where you're going to cut your tape. And in this case, I've got the cut further down on the fender, which I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but I'm starting this tape way down low. Actually, I may end up changing that. I may end up cutting a piece of that off so I can start it higher. So you'll see what I'm able to do with that here in a minute. So I just go back over. Nice general light, about moderate pressure probably. You don't want to mash the crap out of this. You want to use moderate pressure. 50% overlapping strokes, almost like a painter. And you're going to go back and forth with the felt end. You definitely don't, this is a gloss black. You don't want to use the hard end, because if there's any nicks in it or anything, it is going to show up and you're going to ruin your film. And then when I get back up here again, I'll make sure my quarter panel here, I'll actually dig into the back of this just a little bit, relax that film, just so I know I'm getting the back of this, the hood right here. Okay, so now that we've got that done, we'll set the squeegee aside. The car is clean, so I'm not going to add any contaminants over there. And then I go back, since this is wet, you could use a glove if you had one, a cotton glove, but since this is wet, my finger glides okay over it. I go over the top of the knifeless tape, and I look for air bubbles in that as I'm going. because you want to set this, and use clean hands by the way, you want to set this real good into the knifeless tape all the way on both cuts. That way there's no danger of you lifting the film with the tape, because that can happen, and you'll ruin the whole piece if that occurs. But make sure you go all the way, and you want to make sure when you do this knifeless tape stuff, you want to leave yourself a good 4 or 5 inches past, which I don't have down here, and that's why I'm gonna make a cut on this on the knifeless tape, just so I have a little bit longer piece to start here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this up, and just real simple. I'm going to cut a tag off. Be careful not to don't scratch your paint. Oh my goodness, that would be the absolute worst. So it's going to start a little bit lower there, and this one's going to be kind of tight and tough when I come to do this one. I'm going to start with the curved piece first because it's easier to do. And then we'll come back and we'll get the straight piece. It's a lot easier to do in my opinion. So I always start with the curved piece first. So you're going to grab the end of your knifeless tape. I think we can see this. I'll go to this side. And you want to bend it back over itself. Hold down, pop, and now I've got the filament outside of the splitting right down the middle of the tape. So you don't want to pull straight up and out and pull. You don't want to pull at an angle. You want to go at a 30 to 50 degree angle to the pattern. And when it gets to the end here, you want to hold your actual, you want to do it real light. You don't need to monkey this thing. But when you get to the part where it's against your deal, you want to hold it down and then pull. And once it's gotten started, I'm in there now, so I'm going to pull it at a 30 to 50 degree angle. Steady pressure, keep the line tight, and you should be good. Steady pressure all the way through. Again, 30 to 50 degree angle. That provides the best cut without any real bad wrinkles or anything like that. And you go all the way until it pops out the other side. Pull the string out. And now it's just a matter of pulling out your excess from this side. Now be careful when you start this. You don't want to just grab and start ripping real hard. I pull outwards on this at a 90 degree angle. And like I said, go slow. You don't need to go super fast on this, otherwise you'll end up, when you don't think you'll screw something up, that's when you'll do it. And pull it all the way off. There it is. We got our first cut. And then it doesn't matter what side you start from, but you want to grab both strings. You're going to have 2 pieces left of your string here. It's going to be the tape. Pull them together and go at a 90 degree angle. You need to hold down your point. That's going to be excess, so I'm not worried about that point. But I go at a 90 degree angle here. That way the seam naturally lays back down. If you pull up, it's going to lift it up a lot. Make sure you keep steady pressure on this tape, what's left of this tape, because you don't want the pieces to break underneath. If they break, you'll have to go in there and lift with the razor blade, and it's just a pain in the butt. So do what you can to avoid that situation. So, okay, so now we got that cut done. I re-secure this seam here, and what I do is, before I do anything else, I take a micro fiber, brush outward where we just pulled that tape. You don't want to brush in, obviously. I wouldn't brush like with the grain because you might get a ripple. So just push out, and you're just going to go all the way up. You can go fast, you can go slow. Just don't get in so much of a hurry that you end up pulling it up wrong. Now I've gone past where this is going to lay, but we're going to come back in here and we're going to cut this here in just a little bit. So now that that's down, I'm going to mash on this thing again, right where this other piece of tape is going to come through, because what I don't want is to stretch this point that we're going to end up having. If I pull the tape wrong, it's going to pull it up and goof it all up. So, and then I'm going to go over this seam one more time. And while I'm standing here, I'm going to go real light over the top of the film just to dry it so I don't have any spots in the film. Real light. Don't mash down or anything like that. So now it's dry. Alright, so we got to cut this last piece. So again, we're going to find our tape down here at the bottom. We got plenty of overlap. And we're going to bend it back on itself. And then we're going to, well, pull. Alright, so now that it's here, I'm going to hold down on the spot because I don't want it pulling up that corner. You're going to give it a tug once it starts through, and then good steady pressure. Oh, sometimes it wants to bubble up on you. Okay, so in that case, I'm going to hold tight. That didn't tear right, and I may have to redo this piece. What I'm going to try to do here, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try to cut to give it a point to go through. And it worked that time. Go 50 to 70 degree angle, or 30 to 50, and then pull all the way through. I still may have to mess with that, but I'll have to check it in just a minute and see what needs to be done. We'll pull this through, and then there's our tape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull the bad piece here. I say the bad piece, the excess. And I've got enough film, I can do another one of these if I have to. I'm going to see if I can salvage this just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, now that we got it cut, just be careful, but I should be able to cut that little piece off. I might have a little bit of a jagged edge here. It's not a huge deal, but we'll see. Now here, it's going to want to try to take the corner. So I lifted it and pulled sideways to the corner so I can lay the corner down, and now 90 degree angle. Steady pressure, pull, pull, pull. Now somewhere in there I broke and lost the other piece of tape, so you get to see kind of what happens here. Don't panic. Up here we've got the other section of tape still available. I'm going to grab it from that end. Sometimes that happens. It's so hot out here, I'm not surprised that we had issues. So now it's hard to see, but I've got a little bit of rippling on that side. If I were to just mash my finger down through there, I'm going to screw it all up. So again, I'm going to take my microfiber and I'm going to lay it down against the grain. No issue. And down here, here's where I had my issue, and it's not that big of a deal. Luckily, that worked out okay, and we don't end up with a real big problem. I've got just a small little spot. And now that it's down, we can go back here and focus on the back portion now that this is all completed right there. So at this point, what I would do, back here on the back, I've got a big overlap. So I really want to only keep about a 1/2 inch of this to tuck underneath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a place to cut. I'm going to push it down so I have a nice taut surface to cut here. I'm going to cut outwards, and then I'm going to come in where I made that cut, and I'm going to start coming through. And like I said, I'm leaving about a 1/2 inch, going with the curve, and come all the way through. Be careful for any of your seals, rubber seals or anything like that. You don't want to obviously tear those up. And then here on the fender, I'm going to cut where these two meet. This back piece, I'm going to cut right against it because I want to have enough that I can lay down properly underneath this corner here. So I'll find my spot there, and then I'll keep the blade against the paint but not on the paint. So I get a nice clean cut. And then all that we need to do now that we've done that, I'll get my heat gun. We're going to use a low setting for this. Any heat gun will do. We're going to use a low setting. And remember, I kept this relaxed earlier. So what I want to do first is heat it evenly from about 3 to 5 inches up. Get it pretty good and hot. Especially right here at the corner, you want to be able to stretch and go over that corner. So now that I've got that, I was able to go over that corner. And on the rest of this, now I can lay it into the back of the hood with no air bubbles in it. And I can fold it over. Now that's done. While it's still warm and flexible, you can go through here. Make sure you clean, before I forget, make sure you clean the underside of the hood, of course, because for this to stick under there, it's got to have a nice clean surface to go to. And if you haven't cleaned it, guess what? It's going to pull up. So, yeah, you can end up with a mess if you don't. So I got that underneath good. So what I'm going to do at this point, I am going to open the hood because I want to be able to see the underside of where I've done this. And it'll allow me to fix the other side because I need to just go over the corner. So I'm going to lift the hood into the big stretch point here so that I can see that corner real good. And I've got that tag there. So I'm going to reheat this. And I'm going to pull it around. So stretch it. And you can make sure you get a good flat surface here. And you can fold it in, but make sure you get everything in real good and check underneath. It's okay if you have air bubbles underneath a little bit, just get them out. And post heating that, once that's on there like that, you want to come under and make sure you heat that real good. It's on the underside, so it shouldn't be an issue with burning it. Post heat that and then run your finger. It's going to be hot. Just be careful, don't burn yourself. Run your finger back over it. Get any air bubbles out that you see. Things like that. And that also will set the film where you don't have any pullback. Anyway, so that should be about it. I'm going to do this other side, I guess, while I've still got that on. Got the bubbles out of that. Corners wrapped good and tight. On this side, that's just a matter of post heating this. Now I got a nice clean edge on both corners. I'm happy with it. Shouldn't have any issues with that. They're both down real good. So one final, put the hood down. Good. And then the final post heat on this. Again, 3 to 5 inches above. Go over all the seams with that, and then go back, and now you can go down the seam because it should be set. Do that on both sides. Don't linger in any one spot too long because you'll burn the film and it'll haze or blister it, even worse, and you'll be in trouble. Now set this edge. I always like to do a little bit extra on the end just because that's a point, and that's a point of failure. I don't want the wind picking up. So try to mash down. If you push against it, it may stretch it and mess it up. So just mash down on it. Go back over your film. If you see any little spots, you can try to work them out with your finger. Be careful. I've got a little spot here or there that just made a little bitty bubble. There's an air channel in there, so you should be able to just mash it down and it'll work itself out. But then just post heat it real good. I always recheck at the end here. And then it's just a matter of going down and up on the whole piece, steady motion, back and forth. If you have an IR temp gun, use it. You want to get the surface about 185 to 190 degrees. That's pretty warm. I see some marks in there, but they're not detrimental. It's where the film stuck to itself, so over time those should go away. But post heating it will make sure that there's no shrink back anywhere. If you're going to find it, you're going to find it now. Especially up here in the corner where there's usually a failure point, especially after you've stretched it. You just reheat that and make sure it's not going to re-stretch. In general, most of these wrinkles come out, if there are any wrinkles with post heating, any scratches. I'll feel the film. Okay, it's about probably 150 degrees. I'm going to set this in the sun too. So anyway, there you have it. Sorry this is taking so long, but I wanted to be good and thorough. But we're done with this, and it turned out really well. I'll show you real quick. I'll pick up the camera and show you a spot that I have where I may have ended up with a problem. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it's not focusing. Yeah, it's hard to see it. It's right here. I don't think you can see it, but it turned out okay. I really don't have an issue with it, and overall this whole project turned out good overall. So you can see, I think both of them. there they are. It's done. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. Hope you guys have a great Memorial Day weekend, and we'll talk to you later.